Frankie Valli should not be on stage anymore. And every time I see recent footage, I'm honestly stunned that this is still happening. Frankie Valli is a legend. I don't question that for a second. He helped define an era with the Four Seasons, and songs like Sherry and Can't Take My Eyes Off You are burned into music history. But this doesn't look like celebration anymore. It looks like something that should have stopped already. I'll be honest. When I first saw recent footage of Frankie Valli performing, clips from shows in places like Atlantic City and Las Vegas, I thought something was wrong with the video. I rewound it. I watched it again. And then I felt that sinking feeling. The one where you realize this isn't a bad angle or an off night. This is just how it is now. Frankie Valli is over 90 years old. Saying that out loud already changes everything. This isn't about whether his songs still matter. They do. This isn't about whether the Four Seasons deserve their place in history. They absolutely do. This is about what I see when Frankie Valli steps on stage today, under bright lights in sold-out theaters, and why it no longer feels right to watch. In recent performances, he looks fragile. His movements are stiff and minimal. His expression often appears blank, almost distant. When I watch these clips filmed from the front row by fans who paid real money to be there, I'm not thinking about the music. I'm thinking, is he okay? And that's not a question anyone should be asking at a concert. A lot of people focus on whether he's singing live, and I understand why. The vocals often sound steady while his physical presence tells a very different story. That disconnect makes people uncomfortable. Frankie has denied being forced to perform and says he still sings, pointing to backing vocalists and layered arrangements. I hear that, but watching the footage, especially moments where he barely reacts to the crowd, it doesn't ease my mind. It makes me more uneasy. What really gets to me is the reaction from audiences. This isn't normal criticism. This isn't people being picky. Now, I keep seeing words like disturbing, sad, and wrong. Some people go as far as saying it feels like elder abuse. Others ask whether he even has full control over these decisions anymore. And once that question enters the conversation, something has already gone too far.
Sherry, Sherry, baby, Sherry.
To be clear, there is no proven evidence that Frankie Valli is being forced on stage. That matters. But perception matters too. When thousands of viewers independently reach the same uncomfortable conclusions after watching the same shows, it's no longer just noise. It's a warning. Frankie himself says he keeps performing because he loves it, because it gives his life structure. I don't doubt that. Performing has been his identity for decades. Letting go of the stage is probably terrifying. But loving something doesn't automatically mean it's still safe or fair, especially at this age. What I can't wrap my head around is that this isn't winding down. Frankie Valli is still scheduled to perform into 2026 with dates already announced. When I read that, I genuinely couldn't believe it. That means people looked at the same footage I saw. They had the same reactions and concern and decided to keep going anyway. That feels outrageous. And then there's another uncomfortable truth. People are watching now for the wrong reasons. Some fans admit they tune in out of morbid curiosity. Others share clips not to celebrate, but to ask, did you see this? That shift is painful. When a concert becomes something people watch to gawk at instead of enjoy, the line has already been crossed. I also don't buy the idea that this is about financial desperation. There's no solid evidence that Frankie Valli is touring because he has to. What this looks like to me is a system that doesn't know how or doesn't want to stop. Managers, promoters, venues, ticket sales. Everyone benefits from continuing. Everyone except the man standing under the lights. And that's where I really struggle with this. Frankie Valli has already lived through unimaginable personal tragedy. He lost his daughters Celia and Francine in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Losses that would break most people forever. He's carried grief most people never fully recover from. He's given the world everything he had. There is nothing left he needs to prove by standing on a stage at this age. When I hear fans say they wish they could remember him as he was, that hits hard. That isn't disrespect. It's love mixed with sadness. That's people mourning a moment that should have ended more gently. At this point, I believe protecting Frankie Valli matters more than keeping the show going. Older people deserve dignity. They deserve to be shielded from embarrassment, and they deserve to be protected from systems that continue simply because they're profitable. Watching a 90-year-old man struggle on stage doesn't honor his legacy. It risks undoing it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Also, instead of ending this video on a sad note, I want us to remember him the way he deserves to be remembered. When I think of Frankie Valli with the Four Seasons, I see a singer who didn't just perform hit songs. He helped create a sound you could recognize instantly. I love how that falsetto cut through everything. It was strong, sharp, and completely his. So yeah, that's how I would like to remember him. Not as a fragile man struggling on stage today, but as the confident frontman who owned the room and delivered one of the most distinctive voices in pop music. I feel like that version of Frankie Valli already gave us everything. So before we end, let's take a moment to remember him the way you and I first fell in love with his music.
Down the slide, telling dirty lies to my friends.